Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates. All I ask is that you think.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates. Welcome to this episode of the Just My 3 Cents podcast. We are a rapid fire interactive podcast where you can hit the link if you're on YouTube, Facebook, Mental Dialogue Facebook page. There's a link where you can jump on and join the conversation as I, in a sense, provide you my philosophies and my 3 cents on various topics on race, sex, and culture. But you can also jump on and give us your 3 cents as well. As this evening's discussion, if you've seen the promotion, is Russell Wilson and Nice Guys. Just jumping right into this evening's discussion. Again, you can hit the link and jump on. But people have been talking about this over the last couple of weeks. I may, to a degree, may even be a little late to the game. I think some of the conversations have died down, but I've seen a lot of interesting concepts and people talking about this. And so I wanted to give y'all, in a sense, my 3 cents on it. For those that know or familiar with Mental Dialogue, which is the show we do every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to Eastern Standard Time every Saturday morning, I always say we don't touch hot button items unless we, in a sense, hopefully take it in places that people haven't went. And so I'll start out and say this and get right into it. I want to say I don't want to have the typical discussion that I've been seeing. And I'm not saying people didn't go deep with it, but the thing I've been seeing the most is either why do people even consider Russell Wilson lame or whatever, which I think was kicked off for those who don't know. I think it's not the first time that brother's, in a sense, been called it or been referred to as such, right? It's not the first time, but I think what kicked off the latest thing was maybe another podcast where another NFL player labeled him as lame and talking about, in a sense, how he got Sierra after Future or something. I think that's what kicked off these latest comments that we're seeing on social media. And it's like, how did Russell Wilson even get into this? He doesn't even say anything for the most part, right? And so that's the backdrop of where I think it originated from. But again, I don't want it to be just a simple conversation of, whether he's lame or not, or what's wrong with us for thinking such. I got brother Eric in the background. He may just be watching this way. I'm going to bring you on the screen. King, what's up? You trying to get in on this conversation with me, or you just watching? Just want to check with you because I don't mind. Actually, you muted. Take you off mute, brother, so I can know if you're trying to jump in with me.
Hey Montoya, hello. I just joined. I wanted to listen in. I like to listen before I add my 2 cents.
Nah, sounds good. 3 cents, brother. Keep it right. Keep it funky. All right, cool. I'll put you in the background. And raise your, like, I'll be able to see you. So raise your hand if you want to get in, though. So I'll kind of see you in the background. All
Okay.
right. Just wanted to check, but just like that brother did, you can hit the link and join the conversation. But let's go ahead and jump right in. Again, I wanted to take this in a different direction, in my opinion. And so the first thing I wanted to say is basically, people were asking, if you will, what I saw mostly this week, people kept asking, why are people referring to or seeing Russell Wilson somehow as lame? Like, where is this even coming from? And I gave you where I think it originated from, but I wanted to go deeper than the conversation than people that and talk about that why. Like, people are saying, why are people feeling that way? And I'm saying there's enough history, unfortunately, within our culture where we already know why that's the case. And so, in my opinion, when we ask why, we really are trying to shame people for having the values that they have. I'm not saying it's great values. Like, to me, it's silly to see Russell Wilson and Sierra in the situation with Future somehow seeing, if you will, Russell Wilson as lame. I think that's absolutely silly. However, to ask why is to really just jump and skip right over the reality of our culture, which is we're 40, 50, 60 years in to where seeing viable husbands at home that may look or act like a Russell Wilson is to a degree has become, unfortunately, a thing of the past in our culture. And so when that type of thing becomes a thing in the past, then what we seek and look for in long-term mates has become very different than what it used to be. And since that's a reality, one, I'm not surprised that, unfortunately, again, I think it's silly that he's seen this way, but I'm not surprised that to a degree there are many in the culture who see him as such. And so because I'm not surprised by it, me asking why is really, in my opinion, an ego stroke to not prop up, like you use it to a degree. People think it's said to prop up, hey, this should be an example of a good brother. He absolutely is an example of a good brother. But to ask why a culture who hasn't been raised with traditional families for a long time, I'm talking about in general, obviously there are people in our culture who still are, but if we're honest, because we've generally moved away from it, to ask why do you see why does the culture see him as lame is really just an ego stroke, downing those who no longer have that value. So that's one perspective that I wanted to add to this, if you will. Now, the other part of it is this conversation highlights and emphasizes the current gender war that unfortunately we continue having conversations about, that, as I've said on many other broadcasts, is continuing to grow. But I thought, again, to where I wanted to go different, here was an opportunity to put that conversation on his head. One of the memes that a lot of you probably saw, I meant to get it set up so y'all could see it just in case, but I think I can explain it pretty well. But there's a meme I saw on IG, I'm pretty sure it's on Facebook as well, that was highlighting, for example, Russell Wilson dressed in some jeans and maybe like some New Balance shoes or something to that effect, and a Hawaiian shirt. And it kind of just had the brother looking, in a sense, not cool, if you will, lacking swag or whatever. And the caption that associated, I'm pretty sure plenty of y'all seen this, but the caption that was associated with that picture was something to the effect, "Stop capping women. Y'all know if he wasn't Russell Wilson, y'all wouldn't give this guy a chance," right? And so that's getting a lot of love on social media right now. And I get it. I get what I'm pretty sure that was made by some man, right? That's why, because why would a woman make that, right? So some man made that, and this is floating around on social media, getting props. And I'm pretty sure all the likes are a bunch of men who are high five and saying, yeah, y'all know y'all wouldn't go for this guy looking like this if he wasn't Russell Wilson. And so I wanted to put that on his head two ways. So a good friend of mine, Deasia Robinson, she pointed out, and I think this is very fair. So the silliness of that whole concept is this. There's always been the ongoing conversation all my life, even when I was young, in a sense, how girls go for the bad guys, right? They go for the bad guys. That's been an ongoing conversation. But the craziness of this Russell Wilson situation is we spent a long time of our life with this narrative of women, in a sense, going after the bad guys who will treat them bad, or that's who they choose, if you will, or they choose these bad guys. So we've had this narrative, and a lot of men are upset that women choose these bad guys. And somehow today we have it flipped, when a woman now chooses a nice guy, good guy, Russell Wilson, lame, if you will. Now that she's done that, somehow there's ridicule for a woman now choosing the good guy. Like it's completely backwards when you think of the long running conversations. We've had a couple of these conversations, even on Mental Dialogue, if you will, about women choosing bad guys or whatever. And now a woman makes a good decision, and somehow that becomes ridiculed. So that's foolish in itself. But where I really want to go with this thing is this. If you are in the position of sharing that particular meme that I just spoke about, and you're high-fiving other guys because you're in the mindset that it proves a point, in a sense, about these women. Well, if you take the two things I just talked about, the history that continues to get talked about of the idea of a bad guy getting chosen, because it's usually a bad guy with some type of status, right? He's getting chosen over, quote unquote, a more appropriate guy, or quote unquote, a nice guy, if you will. So that's been the trope that's gone around forever. In this situation with Russell Wilson, the guy actually put on the meme, you know, you wouldn't choose this guy if it wasn't for his status. Well, I want to show you the common denominator between both of those, as I just pointed out how silly it is for you to really be on either side of it. But what's the common thing? The bad guy with status and Russell Wilson, the quote unquote lame, nice guy, whatever you want to call him, with status. So if you're one of these guys, if you will, that are high-fiving because you quote unquote proved the point, well, the consistency in that is the status. And let me see if I can make this very clear here. So what both of those scenarios, even though, again, guys are high-fiving one another, but what both of those scenarios shows that whether you the bad guy or the nice guy with status, you get chose. So if you're high-fiving, I'm sorry. If you're high-fiving, you upset he has the girl and you don't. So who's the lame? Who's the lame? So you're taking time to, in a sense, tear down Russell Wilson because he's missing swag or lacks swag, or you want to point out these women wouldn't choose him if he didn't have status. That's the same thing you're saying about these bad guys with status. So the common denominator is either you get the status and get chose, or you the foolish one that's talking about why she chose the bad guy. Why are you mad? Because you ain't got the girl. Why she chose Russell Wilson? Because if he wasn't a quarterback for Seattle, he wouldn't get chose. The common denominator is the status that made sense for her to choose that guy. And the other common denominator is you're upset, left without the girl. So this meme is floating around, in my opinion, from an extremely weak position to be floating it around. And this is what ultimately, to take this deeper and not to beat that particular meme, in the ground, but let's go deeper with it. So basically, everything that happens right now in the current gender war is coming from the place of a blame game. And so the meme is very popular for the reasons that I just talked about. But here's the unfortunate reality. Not only are those men upset and they don't have the girl, while trying to bring this man with status down some level by calling him a lame, right? Which he don't give a damn what any of us think, and he shouldn't, right? But I'm saying not only is it that, but there's so many things that happen within the gender war that take place in this vein. And this is what everybody's missing. In this situation, it's the men upset about Russell Wilson or future, if you will, because that's how they play it out. Either way, none of us got Sierra. They had them, we didn't, right? And then the same thing happens with women when the men ain't shit comments, right? There's all these different things within the gender war. They take place in this same vein, and that's what I wanted to call out tonight. And the vein is this. It's time to stop playing the blame game, right? Because you cannot shame another gender into acting in the way or manner in which you would want them to act. All right, looks like my man Eric want to get up in this thing now. I'm pulling you up because I'm assuming you're trying to get in, or just checking. If you're just listening, cool. Are you good? All right, cool. Again, anybody that's listening, you can jump in and give us your 3 cents, but you cannot shame another gender into acting the way you want. And here's the reality. Like, let's go back to what I said at the beginning of this. I want to really walk through what I'm saying right now. So I quickly pointed out in the beginning of this thing that even the idea of asking why are people even calling Russell Wilson a lame, and I pointed out that people are not sincerely asking that. It's actually an ego stroke to try to down those who do call him lame. You really are saying it to down them. And so the same thing happens when this meme floats around. It's a way of saying, see, ain't that how the women choose? You one, two, you still don't end up with the woman, but you're playing the brain game of trying to shame another gender into acting how you want them to act. And typically when you're doing this, it's really a projection for the fact that you lack what's necessary to be to get what you want. In this case, it's and from the man's side, it's the woman, if you will, right? Or vice versa when women are within the gender war, because I'm generalizing here, but within the gender war, when women are even sometimes asking why do certain men do this or whatever, it's coming from a place of not sincerity. It's coming from a place of trying to shame the other gender into acting how you want because of what you personally lack. I just showed whether you talking down on a Future for being the bad guy that Sierra chose at one point, and now she's correctly chosen a man that has made her a wife and they're raising an amazing family or whatever. But instead of us giving it props, not everybody, I'm generalizing here, but instead of for those that are not giving it props and trying to down it, it's a lack of the fact that you haven't got to a status to attract the kind of woman that you might want. That's the reality. And so we continue to place blame instead of look in the mirror and go towards what we typically know we need to do, in a lot of cases not willing to do, to get in the position not to play this blame game. Because you know who doesn't play the blame game? Those that are happily in a relationship that ain't got time to spend time looking at everybody else's relationship. They don't spend no time on that. Or those who are focused on themselves, getting themselves into a position so that they can draw that which they want to themselves, if you will. Again, if you're out there listening and want to jump in, hit the link and come on this thing. And you can give me your 3 cents as well. I also saw this this week once I was deciding on whether I was going to touch this show or not. It's a sister that I love following. For those who know the motto, all I ask is that you think. So I love following people that make me think as well. And so there's a sister by the name of Nomalanga Malawi Davis, who literally I follow, and she makes prominent points all the time. And she put, now, moving away from Russell Wilson, if you will, to the nice guy side of this thing, she put this context that I've always been aware of. I think, I'm assuming since you jumped out and jumped back in, you're now ready to talk. Okay, brother. I'm just trying to make sure I get you if you want to talk. My bad. All right. Anybody can jump on with me. So she put this thing in context about the nice guys in particular. It's something I've always known, but just worded it very, very, very clear. And I wanted to dialogue about this as well. And again, I hope y'all jump in. Don't make me do 30 minutes by myself, man. Y'all jump in on this thing with me. All right. So she said this week in a post, and it hits home with this stuff floating around about Russell Wilson being lame and people having those conversations. She says, "Dear nice guy, please stop complaining that women always overlook you and go for the bad boy. If she overlooks you in favor of the bad boy, she's probably a bad girl. Maybe you should also stop overlooking the good girl and chasing bad girls." Let me say it one more time, just in case anybody missed that. She says, "Dear nice guy, please stop complaining that women always overlook you and go for the bad boy. If she overlooks you in favor of the bad boy, she's probably a bad girl. Maybe you should stop overlooking the good girl and chasing bad girls." She calling us out, fellas. She calling us out in general. Again, this ain't every guy, but she calling us out. And it's a great call out, because not only in playing the blame game, but not only do we project no matter which gender is doing it, but when you're doing it, not only are you doing that, you're also overlooking the fact that you're doing the same thing. So in the beginning, I talked about how asking why Russell Wilson is even considered a lane in a large part of our culture. And I said the reality is we've come from, unfortunately, broken families to the point that which we desire isn't always the things that make good for family. All right, I got Ashley jumping on this thing with me, Queen. Come on, get in this thing with me, Queen. You can go. So hey, I don't know if I'm cooking or not. Go ahead and jump in and give me your 3 cents.
Yeah, I already told you to preach in the comments. I mean, it blows me when people are like, "Oh, I'm a nice guy. Like I don't get chose." Like, what does that have to do with compatibility or chemistry? Like, it has nothing to do with that. You might be the nicest guy. If someone does not have a connection with you, if there's no chemistry, what are you getting upset about? Like, let it go. Just move on. It's so frustrating. Like, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And like, everybody understands that until it's them in the hot seat and like they're the one not getting chose. Like, either you understand that and like it has nothing to do with because you're nice. And like, let's be honest, in my experience as a woman, most guys that say that, they're not nice. Like, it's a coy, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, I hear that all the time. I know some guys are sincerely nice and say it, but I hear that from women all the time. And so it is here. It is because this is the conversation about nice guys. I usually don't like to explore it because I know sincere guys who are nice that still say it. However, go ahead and highlight how many people play nice and they are far from nice. Because so I know it's such a reality that it can't be left alone. So I'm willing to let you explore it, even though typically I wouldn't. But it's fair. And go ahead and talk about that real quick.
So I would say like most people that say they're nice people, it's because like you're not abusive or because you don't cheat or anything like that. But that does not mean that you're a really nice person, you know, and like those are the basics. That's the minimum that you should be doing in a relationship. Like if you are deciding to commit to someone, that means that you should be loyal. That means that you should be respectful. That means that you should be courteous, right? Like you should be thoughtful and giving, right? Because that same energy that you're giving out is the same thing that you want back. So like that is the bare minimum that you should be doing. That does not make you a nice person. What makes you a nice person, in my personal opinion, is like, are you giving back? Are you taking care of are you doing something without anyone watching and like you're not having to brag about it? Like what are you doing that's really making you nice? And if it has anything to do with like how you're treating another person, like those are the basics to treating someone like a human being. Like there is nothing that someone should have to do to earn you being courteous or respectful to them, right? Like I'm one of those, like I'm gonna come at you the way that I want to be treated until you treat me otherwise. And so if that's what's happening, like just because you're nice does not mean that we have a connection or that you're my type or that I have to give you the time of day. And the nice guys will be the same ones that'll turn around and call you a bitch or call you stuck up or call you names because you won't give them your number. Like, no, then you're not really a nice person if your whole demeanor is going to shift because I decided that I did not want to go that way.
Hey, no brownie points for doing what the hell you supposed to do and just
thank you. Thank
you. I definitely respect it. And again, I just wanted you to run down that path because as a woman, I understand that unfortunately comes at you. But I feel like the whole fervor that this quote unquote gender war is happening in is a lot of that type. Like I talked about in the beginning, the high fiving of this meme. Y'all wouldn't pick this guy if he didn't have a status. Is a bunch of nice guys. Or talking about Future Will. It's a bunch of nice guys who mad. If you mad all the time about her choosing a bad guy or why you ain't chose me, you probably too upset to be nice if you even get the shot.
I mean, like what person does not want to be treated well? Like that's really the question. Like if Sierra has come out of her mouth and said that this man adores her and treats her well, why doesn't anyone deserve to be treated well? Like what is the problem?
Nah, fair enough. I got Wendell trying to get in this thing with me. Go ahead, King. Give us your 3 cents this evening.
Yeah, man. So first of all, I appreciate you getting on here and talking about this, man. First, I was like, I don't really have much to say about ignorance when you want to talk down about somebody and their so-called swag. But I think that the main point is that we have an issue with each other, right? We have an issue looking at successful people that look like we do, and supporting or promoting and or really undergirding that success to the point where we share in each other's success. You know, I fail to understand why we focus so much on someone else and their lot in life while not focusing on ours and focusing on ourselves internally and building ourselves up so that we do attract what we want. If you're talking about a relationship, but we have relationships not only to members of the opposite sex, we have relationships to each other. We have interpersonal relationships that we need to build. So I think that the focus really needs to be on those things. And I think that beauty, that inner beauty, will attract the people that we want in our lives. Because as you know, we are the sum total of the 5 closest people in our lives who we choose to spend time with. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I mean, that's perfect. That's perfectly said. I would like to highlight this because I know you have an answer because, again, you know, you're my boy and I know a little, you know, I know you. So I want you to dig into when you said, I fail to understand why we focus on others. Actually, you don't. And that's where I like to get into the nuance of we do know why. And if we really think about that why, that's the conversation that can move us to doing what you said. So, because what happens is we stop it at why are people this way? There's a long history. There's a lot of people that have not been poured into. And so when we stop at why, we actually leave those people over there to a degree. And here's the other thing. If that's their reality, believe it or not, we can understand it. Think about it. We can actually understand it. And the reason it matters to understand it is because we kind of, not you went, you didn't come with this spirit, because I've seen this online too. I talked about it at the very beginning of this. Sometimes we're asking the why from an egotistical place. I don't feel you said it from that place at all, but we can't keep saying we don't know why, because culturally we've had families broken for so long that now we've learned to value things that don't connect families. Like, here's a saying that I'm glad to have y'all both on, and I want to hear y'all, your thoughts on this. But this is something that is now, unfortunately, relatively been accepted as true in the current culture. And I don't think we should argue. I'm prefacing before I say it. I don't think we should argue 100% against it, but we can dialogue about this comment right here, which is, I saw this week. Everything always lines up. The universe always lines up. When I'm preparing for a show, things just pop up that I need to hear. I got Deasia trying to get on this thing too. I'm going to get her in a second. But the comment is this: when a man gets money, he wants more women. When a woman gets money, she doesn't need a man. I'm going to say it one more time. When a man gets money, he wants more women. When a woman gets money, she doesn't need a man. If we're honest, in 2022, that's relatively accepted as a fair thought in 2022. And let's keep in general. It's honest in general. And the reason it's honest in general, this is what I want to talk about. So, without being given a family value of knowing how family supersedes any of what I just said, but without that, by nature, when we were young, if you got a certain status, it's natural, without any training, without any maturity, that as you get status, whether that's money or just appear to have status, chasing women is very natural. In this 2022 era, we're always talking about the independent trope that Black women are really tired of, but in reality, a lot have been raised with, got your own thing, and this don't need a man. That's kind of going, I think that's dying a little bit, but we definitely was raised with it over the last 20 or 30 years. So it's become such a reality. Here's what my point about this comment. If people think this comment is relatively true and can accept it as such in 2022, I want people to really dig into that this comment takes us away from relationships. When a man gets money, he wants more women. So you always hear about the men that get status. A woman might have to live with the fact that he's going to cheat. So we can't run from that nature, right? We talk about that all the time. But if you're immature and chasing a bunch of women, for the most part, that doesn't bring you to having a family and securing it. And then for some of the sisters who have gotten independent to the point of having trouble finding a man for whatever reason, we're watching people now in the current state say, hey, they're possibly going to die alone. We're hearing that kind of stuff now, right? So by nature, if we move towards our nature, it doesn't bring us to family. So the only way you can move past nature is to be raised in a culture that values family. And now this shit don't matter. But I hope I'm making sense that it's a truth because we don't have family structures. With family structures, you learn to go the opposite of this comment. I'm gonna start with Went, go to Ashley, and go to DH after that. Go ahead, Went.
I don't agree.
Okay.
I think that based on what you said, it appears that in our adolescence, if you missed out in a structured environment in our adolescence, what I heard from you is that carrying forward and the lack of maturity thereafter will not net you the experience that we like to understand as being a successful relationship. And I think that at certain points in our evolution as men, we have opportunities to understand what the value and the benefit of a family structure is. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be raised in it. I do agree that at some point there has to be an exposure. However, I don't think that it's a bygone conclusion that if you weren't exposed to it in adolescence, and I have to tell you, I had been exposed to, first of all, my mother and father were together. Neither my mother or my father had traditional relationships in the family in terms of, being raised by a mother and a father. They came together very young and they said, you know what? I don't know. I've never seen it happen. However, we're going to create what we understand as a family structure. Now, I thank God for them. They did it for me and my brother and my sister. And I then took that. And yes, in our adolescence as boys, we did kind of hang on to that thing that we found value in, right? And that hunter-gatherer spirit. And yes, we did, but that's what boys do. That's what adolescent people do, right? We allow the society that we're in to shape our minds and our patterns, and that's what happened. However, I would say very soon thereafter, you start to realize that where you want to be in life and sharing experiences with someone and coming together. And I always use this analogy with my wife. It's nothing but God-given to have found someone on the same path, at the same speed, at the same time, in the same vehicle to ride that road through life, right? You can't make it up, right? It has to be led, it has to be blessed. And so I believe that's how, that was my experience, right? Anyway.
That's fair.
And if you are truly creating or truly studying and trying to be a better human being, okay, and you are of good character, and you're working on yourself to the point where you want to attract that thing that you say you want to have, then it will happen for you. But right. You can't get caught up.
So let me. No, that's fair. But let me say this real quick.
That we are, that's placed on us.
Right. So let me say this real quick, and I'm gonna go to Ashley. So the only thing I would highlight is everything you're saying makes a lot of sense. I just think due to broken families for so long, there's an extended adolescence now. The values of what you're talking about, of what you say, if you seek these things, these values, some people never learn to seek them based on their background, right? So that's unfortunately a reality, and we have more of that now. So there's an extended adolescence, in my opinion, and as we get older, these things make it harder to line up, and we have limited marriage within our culture, in my opinion. Go ahead, Ashley, your thoughts on that, and I'm gonna go to DH.
So I would say, like, just the part about women, I don't know any man that has a daughter that like does not want her to have the ability to be able to take care of herself, right? I don't think that women are out here as they're making more money, they don't need a man, right? But the reality is, and I do agree, like it comes from not having that structure, but we're not doing that because we don't need or want a man. Like it's the reality of what we're living in. Like we have to be able to handle things for ourselves. And if I made $100,000 or $200,000 more than what I was making right now, I would still want a partner. I still want someone that I can be with. That's not negated. But what is reality is that I have to be able to take care of myself right now. And if a man has not proven himself with the ability to take care of me and handle those things, then I have to do that for myself. And I don't think that has anything to do with, oh, you didn't grow up in a family home. There have been women that have been put in situations where they could not leave, they could not do for themselves, just simply for the fact because it wasn't there. So I don't think it's about like women don't want or need men. It's just that until we find that person, we have to be able to take care of ourselves. And for men, I can't really speak on that, you know, but I think that in the society that we're in right now, these younger men for 2022, like I see them like looking for women to be flashy, but I don't know any man, like even the ones, and I think like this for me comes back to like mental health and like what are your traumas, what are the things that you've been through, but we are wired for connection. And I don't know any man, regardless of the shit that he's been through, that isn't like, I want someone that gets me, I want someone that's real, I want someone that's loyal. And like, even to Wendell's point, like, even if they didn't grow up in that, they want that experience, right? We have all been hurt. We've all had people that have not been who they said they were. But like at the end of the day, we all want someone that understands us, that is loyal to us, that can see us and hear us despite our past, despite our skeletons, despite all of the issues that we've been through. And I think not being a part of that structure drives you for that even more, because you feel like you're missing out on something. You feel like there's something that's missing from your life. So I would say that I disagree.
Yeah, unfortunately, what you just said is not proven, though. The numbers show it ain't driving us to do it more. Because I mean, that's the reality of where marriage is right now. So that's absolutely not happening. And I will clarify this. I was again repeating something that fell into my lap this week and just talking about it from a general standpoint. I absolutely have an entire video saying, hey, the situation for where women have gotten to needing to do it, unfortunately, has been driven from lack of structure. Like even the idea. So I'm not even saying it as a blame game or suggesting that women don't want men. Yeah, I'm highlighting that because it still only came from what happened historically. If we as culturally, if the man's there, we're a man. Eventually, historically, I'm gonna go to men first before I go to women. You will eventually, while like Went said, as boys, you're going to do that in adolescence. You're going to do some of that anyway to a degree, if you will. However, with culture and with value, and you still see this in other parts of the world, the men eventually like, grow up, boy. And growing up included a manhood of having a family and raising family. This is something that we're not getting told. We're finding it on our own in a lot of cases, like we will eventually win. But the reality is, we're lacking a lot of families in our culture. And I'm just saying it's driven by the lack of structure. And even you highlighted that when you started, Ashley. Some of this is coming from, so it becomes exponential. It's not me saying individually a person can't get it without a structure. It's not me saying women are to be blamed, or even that I believe women don't want men. We absolutely are wired and connected. So I'm not saying that at all. But however, that becoming a truth in 2022 has come from the lack of not having family structures, where we would have never learned to value what was said in that little meme. It's a meme. A meme lacks context. I want to get the age, to be fair.
Yeah,
she's been waiting for a while.
But I got a question.
Yeah, I'll let you. Yeah, I'll let you. Yeah, I just want to get her in because she's been waiting for a while. All right, Deasia, you on? Give us your 3 cents, Queen. Thanks for jumping on with me.
Hey y'all, no problem. So first I want to speak on what y'all speaking on right now, and then I want to kind of like circle back to the main topic of,
What's
my
up?
thoughts on the Russell Wilson situation. First, I want to echo what it is that Ashley was saying about women with money. What people don't understand is this thing about a woman with money not needing a man. A woman with money, it doesn't mean that she doesn't need a man or she doesn't want a man. The comfort of a man is priceless, right?
Facts.
So the thing is with having the money, it's not saying, hey, I don't need you, because that actually devalues a man for men to run around thinking that the only thing we need them for is for their money. That's really kind of like, if you got a woman with money or whatever, it's pretty much like, okay, that's the last thing I need you for. I need you for these things that are actually essential, the things that I can't do by myself, I can't do for myself, the things, the protection and the structure and the things that I need from you, right? So when we say the not needing a man, it's more so, okay, I am able to take care of myself. If a man is not out there able to take care of me, I am able to take care of myself.
Let me do something right here, because I think this is a key point just to highlight. And it's moving from the immaturity to maturity. So while we're immature, and when you might can back this up too. So while we're immature as boys, we spend a lot of time and waste a lot of time on, we don't want a woman that just wants us for our money. It's not nothing factual about it, but in our adolescence and in our immaturity, we spend a lot of time not wanting to get played for our money. The reason I'm highlighting that, Deasia, is in our immaturity, we're focused completely in the wrong place. And I'm just talking about it because when we mature, we hear what you're saying. So it's not that a mature man thinks that a woman just wants you for money, but there is a time period, and we don't know how long adolescence lasts now. If adolescence is extended, you get 25-year-old, you get 30-year-old, you get 35-year-old, 40-year-old men, some still talking about trying to avoid a man. So I'm only highlighting that to point out that in our maturity, a lot of boys, we get told not to get played by a woman for our money. And all these things are quote unquote, pimping points that drive us away from real relationships. So we literally have to navigate being drove completely to the opposite end of having a valued relationship. And unfortunately, reality for a lot of us, we have to find it on our own. And as Wendell said, I know this brother, he did that. But we got to be honest that finding it that way is a lot harder than being raised where that value was put on you much sooner because you've been raised in the structure. Go ahead, Queen.
But what you're saying translates into, this is how I'm listening to I'm hearing what you're saying.
Okay.
While you're young and you're immature, of course, you don't want a woman to play you for your money, right? Once you're older and you know better, and this is outside of the extended adolescence, this is someone that is mature, like you're older and you know better, and you know, like, hey, you're wanting a family, you want to be able to provide for your family or whatnot. So it comes from, it starts at, I don't want this woman to play me for my money, and then later on is, now I'm older and I get women with money, and it's like, oh, she don't need a man though. So it's still like, any way you look at it, it's still negative at the end of the day, because of like the mature people,
what's still negative?
Because a woman in her adolescence and a boy in their adolescence, neither one of, like, if we're talking about adolescence, the girl in her adolescence don't even have the money. So we can't be talking about a woman not needing a man, and we're speaking in it in terms of adolescence, because adolescents don't have money. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you're saying a person with money don't need a man, it has to be a grown woman, right?
But I'm not suggesting that's what that trope has become a reality. All I'm talking about is we talk about within the feminist movement, the concept, we always talk about the idea that women have been taught they don't need a man. I'm not saying it's a reality for y'all as women, but we have to accept that trope was driven for at least 20, 30 years. I'm just talking about
we need to change that. We need to change that. We really need to redefine it. It's not a woman saying, it's not, women are not, it's not like we're programmed to not need a man. Y'all men look at it like that. We're programmed to be able to take care of ourselves.
Right.
Men
Right.
seeing it as we're saying
Yes.
we don't need a man. That's not the same. That's not
Yeah.
what our parents are telling us. Hey, you
Right.
know what? You don't need no man. It's more
I
so
don't think no
of you
parent.
need
I
to
don't
be
know.
able
I
to
don't think
take
no
care of
parent
yourself.
saying that though. I don't think any parent saying that to their child.
Right,
I
but
don't
that's
think so.
how the men are taking it as that. But I do want to go back to really quick the Russell Wilson thing, and I actually hate to pull this card. And Montoya, you know me, I don't even do this, but I got to do it, right? I really feel like at the end of the day, when people be calling Russell Wilson a simp and everything, I think it has a lot to do with the simple fact of society, black men, and society, and as well as black men, they're used to seeing black women struggle. They're used to seeing black women being a ride or die. Having to go through the struggle, got to be in the gym with you hooping and everything to be able to be afforded a certain type of lifestyle, to be deserving of a man that has status, that has money, and that's gonna treat her good. Now, Ciara didn't have to go through that fire with Russell Wilson, right? And Russell Wilson treats her like a fucking queen. And so now, because he's treating someone like a queen that wasn't in the gym with him hooping, all of a sudden he's a simp. But when he done took on this other man's child, he done, you know what I'm saying, he's good to his wife and all that kind of stuff. Now all of a sudden he's a simp. We never heard of Russell Wilson being a simp when he was taking care of that white woman that he was with, though.
Ooh.
So now he get him a black woman, and he's taking care of his black woman, and he's treating his black woman right. All of a sudden, Russell Wilson is a simp. I never even heard shit about Russell Wilson until he got with Ciara. He was with that white woman all this time, and his name was never in the news.
I
So
didn't even know he was with a white woman. I don't remember.
Hey.
Now you said,
yeah, his first wife was white.
Oh, he had a wife. Oh, they was married. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I ain't even. That's how.
Yeah, his first wife was white.
It's so bad. I didn't even know. Go ahead, Went. Jump
Look,
in,
man.
King.
Look, let me just say this. Deasia, thank you for bringing that up. I just want to say this. I want to apologize to the sisters if what you saying is true. Okay. If what all this stuff that I'm picking up and y'all putting down is true, I apologize to y'all, because the black women, first of all, I was raised by nothing but my great grandmother had 14 children, 7 women, 7 men, and them women right there were everything to me. Okay, I have seen, man, I can't tell you, these are the nourishers of the world. Okay, you talk about struggle. We need to change our cultural currency, first of all, and stop saying that the more struggle, and I think you touched on this a little while ago, the more struggle, the harder you are, the blacker you are, and all of this. No, we come in all shapes and we come in all strengths. And I'm going to tell you this, what I'm seeing is it's a fear of vulnerability.
Yep.
When you talk about money, when you talk about, I don't want anybody to play me for my money, what you're really saying is, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of being exposed. I'm afraid of being, my ego is too shallow and too weak. And so, and there is a component, money is power and control, and nobody, wants to feel. But I would tell you, and I hate to point out, in my circumstance, but I was one of the, I would say, me, Smitty, I was the same way. Ain't nobody gonna take advantage of me. I'm not paying for nothing, right? But for the last 22 years, I've never looked at my paycheck. I don't know where it is. You understand? My wife takes care of all of that. Okay, so I'm not worried about, and she had money when I met her.
Right.
And so somehow, some way, we have to take our narratives back, because I fear that our narrative is being shifted by somebody else for somebody else's benefit. I don't believe that Black women are out here talking about, I can do it myself and all of that. I don't need you. I don't want you. I got a daughter. I know she's not talking about that, even though I haven't told her that. But in the absence of brothers that's going to take care of and provide for and things like that, what do you think these women have to do? They have to be self-reliant. They have to be, they have to be self-sufficient. If a brother's out there trying to find somebody that doesn't have those skills and abilities, then what's he looking for? You talk.
Right.
I mean, it's just, to me, it's just, we really need to pay attention to the narratives that we're putting out there. Every woman is not hypersexualized. Okay, every black woman is not out here, on Instagram and things like that, trying to get money and trying to take advantage of the brothers when they have the opportunity. And as for Russell Wilson, I have nothing but mad respect for that brother, because he treats that queen like a queen.
Yep.
So I don't know who's out here talking about Russell and but the sister's right. We ain't hear nothing about Russell when he was taking care of the white family. But when he taking care of the black family, another man's family, we got a whole bunch to say about it.
And so the call out,
he's a king.
The call out, that's a great call out, DeAsia. And the call out is to literally delve into the psychology of why that became an issue, and to be very, in my opinion, look in the mirror to the point, as I was saying at the beginning of this. If you're one that's trying to knock this man down because you haven't reached status, for you even to take the time to even try to call this man a lame or whatever you want to call him, that's a mirror check. But what you're doing is you're gathering with a bunch of other brothers, high-fiving each other, trying to quote unquote prove a point when you ain't did the mirror check. Because as I said in the beginning, whether it's the bad guy with status or the nice guy with status, the status, and it ain't just your money, right? It's just respected in whatever circumstance you're under. The man that's respected in that situation is gonna have more opportunities than women. So your reality is get to the status that you need to, and quit talking shit about other people that got a shot, or like Ashley said in the beginning, they don't see you as attractive. They're not compatible with you. You don't see certain people compatible. Or, as if y'all heard the part where I read what No Malengo wrote, dear nice guy, stop looking over the good girl for the baddie, which calls out the whole thing on its entire head. Because in reality, the same thing we're quote unquote, this group is calling women out for who they're choosing, is doing the exact same thing, and never look at it that way.
Yep.
And another thing that I want to point out, just for y'all to just look at that, is real simple to me. Look at the difference between the conversation around LeBron James and his wife and Russell Wilson and Ciara, right? LeBron James was with his wife before he became LeBron James. He don't get clowned because she was in the gym with him when he was hooping, right?
Right.
If you look at it, every time a black man gets with once he has reached a level of success, like a Russell Wilson or a LeBron James, whatever, like he's successful. Just say a man is successful. Every time a successful black man gets with a black woman, and she ain't on no Beyonce level or something like that, every time he get with her, she either gonna be called the gold digger, or he gonna get called the simp. I haven't seen no case where a black man that was successful got with a black woman after his success, and he wasn't called, and she wasn't, at least she wasn't called the gold digger.
Why is that?
But if that black man was to get with a white woman, wasn't nobody better damn eye, because they value, and there's still that sentiment out here where, you know what I'm saying, the fucking with these white people is like an upgrade. You get what I'm saying? So even though he's successful, it's like basically he got enough money to be able to afford to be with a white woman, and for him to be with this black woman, for how society look at it, like he's kind of downgraded himself, and she's just a gold digger. And the fact that he's dealing with this black woman, that the society look at her like a gold digger, he automatically get looked at like a simp because you fucking with a gold digger.
And psychologically, all that's driven from a lack of love that a lot of us have never been properly provided for. And where's the best place to get it? Well, I'm gonna stay on this part. The easiest place to get it is for it to be poured into you by your mother and father. That's where it's supposed to come from. And historically, humans have been raised in that situation. So we have an abundance of dysfunction.
But why is that though? Why is that, Smith?
So,
if you have,
but the sentiment, you know what? To be honest, that
woman-led household, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear both of y'all were talking, so I didn't catch either one of you.
a single parent household, 90% of the time is a woman-led household, right?
But yeah, that sounds about
So
right.
where are we as Black men devaluing Black women to the point where the narrative is that other races, now it could be white, it could be Hispanic, it could be whatever, are more valuable than our own? This woman raised you. So where is
So
that? Tell me.
I
Go ahead.
feel like it's a projection because like when you think about like what our kids are seeing in terms of their mom potentially working multiple jobs or having to do all of these different things just to maintain the household, it sets the standard that a Black woman has to go above and beyond at all times to make it happen. And it's unfortunate. So, like, if you're not willing to do the work, if you're not willing to cook and clean and bring in money and take care of the household, like, you're not there. You're not doing it like my mom did it. So, who are you? Why do you get access to this part of me when you have not proven yourself that you can handle all 10 of these different things just for me to decide that I want to be with you or this is okay?
And that can
Yeah.
only happen with the breakdown of the family.
And so you're saying, I
But
just
no,
want to get
I
this
don't. I
straight.
No, but
disagree with that.
Montoya, it's not just a breakdown of the family, because let me tell you something. That sentiment is woven into us so much. It's just like systematic racism at this point. The family structure, the family structure is not going to stop people from actually feeling that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because
So
it's like
why?
it's just.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
Go ahead. You can finish. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So we've now 2-3 generations of young boys deciding that you're not like my mama. They had to see it from someplace. We are that generation. I call us quote unquote the hip hop generation. I'm the same age as hip hop. The hip hop generation. I also always call it quite often the quote unquote fatherless generation. What I mean by that is when we got to the period where more boys were starting to be born outside of that structure than inside of it. We are that generation in which that started. So the woman that you just described, Ashley, we are the first generation to see that and now desire that. There's been no difference in the past, the desire to have their woman do all those things and expect that as a reality within a relationship.
I disagree because my grandmother, right? My grandfather went out and got the bacon, but guess what my grandmother did? She still ran the household. She still took care of everything. So in the history of Black women, we have seen Black women handle everything. So
Absolutely.
like, I don't think that has anything to do with family structure. It really deals with how have our men been showing up and supporting, right? Because why is it gay or feminine for a man to know how to sew? Or why is it like he's not expected to know how to cook, but as a woman, I am. So like, I don't think that fully addresses it.
Let me ask something about what you said about your grandmother though. So you're saying that your grandmother did the exam as the example you just gave us?
Yes, my grandmother paid the bills. She got the groceries. She did the cooking. She did the cleaning. She did the laundry. And my grandfather had children outside of wedlock. He would bring home the check, but that's it. He was not there supporting my grandmother until we came along as the grandkids. But when my mom was being raised, that's not what happened. So like, what men were there? And like, yes, maybe they were instilling life lessons and, you know, teaching skills, but like, what men were there supporting and doing things for the wife? What men were also cooking? Like, I know that there are obviously people that did that, but I don't think the majority of the examples that we see from older generations are that was what men did, because there were gender roles. Women were very ingrained in those gender roles. So gender roles definitely impacted that view. And so it has gone from women being in these roles of caretaker, nurturer, all of these things, with a husband who maybe didn't deal with the kids. He was responsible for bringing home the money, and it was on her to make everything else happen, to him now not being a part of the household, and it's still continuing for women.
Go ahead, Wendy.
But you know what? I want to say something to that, Ashley, really quick, because I'm a person, I'm absolutely okay with gender roles. I love gender roles. I don't want to do what a man does. I would prefer to cook and clean and all that, because I don't want to be under the hood of a car trying to change no oil and no shit like that. I don't want to take out the trash.
Oh, I
nothing.
feel you.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm absolutely okay with a gender role. They need to run them back.
But
The
there
thing
still has to be
is
balance.
But no, the thing is we can't take away the essence of who we are. We are naturally nurturers. We are naturally caregivers. Men are naturally providers and naturally protectors. What has happened is, unfortunately, back when we look at our grandparents and everything, those relationships sometimes they were unhealthy when we look at it now in a more progressive mindset because of how they misuse, how some of those men misuse their power, didn't understand what it means, or didn't really understand the value of the woman that they have, where they're like, oh, okay, I got her at home. They used it more as it's somewhat of a control tactic. But if you got a man that knows the value of his woman and knows how important it is for that woman to be at their house cooking and cleaning and taking care of the kids and doing all that, so he could have room to be out here and have the mental space to be out here and tackle the world, then yeah, give him that so he could go out here and do what it is that he needs to do in order to tackle the world. But he don't get to come back home and mistreat her just because she's not, bringing home the bacon, because we both are in our respectable roles doing what is necessary to make this thing work. I'm not more powerful than you, and you're not more powerful than me. We are all working in unison with each other.
Those men also expected their sons to have a family one day. Like, we cannot overlook what that foundation brings and not admit that it's lost on our culture right now.
Well, wait a minute.
We can't say that's not lost on our culture. This is what
I want to talk to you about, man. First of all, my father used to tell me all the time, a man and a woman have an understanding that only that man and that woman understand. So what that means is, when you're in a relationship, that you got to make it work the way y'all have to make it work. You understand? So chemistry is the study of two elements coming together and creating something new, right? And so I think about that, and I think of, the narrative that has been spun about our family and our family structure. What's unique about that? Where did is Hispanic family that way? Or some back in the 1950s, was the white family not that?
What's that? Let me hear it so I understand.
When you talk about broken homes or roles, or I hate this term, but toxic masculinity, when there's domestic violence in the home or children outside of the home and all of these types of things.
So when you say, are they not that? What do you mean? Because they are together.
Talk about the structured family, right?
I'm saying they are together. They are together. They're not the same as they're.
Well, hold on.
Not
Listen, what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, whatever events you are pointing to that are now leading to the claim that we have broken homes and we have men and women out here that are not connecting, right? Whatever those things are, I'm asking you, is it not also true that those other communities suffer the same thing?
It is not true.
And one more thing, and I heard you say that you had this thing is qualified. Somebody qualified these statements to the point where these things, this condition that you have identified, is now led to the condition that we are experiencing today. And I would submit to you that it is a host of other issues out here that we could be talking about that perhaps contributed to our situation. It might not be a broken family. It could be our own definition of self-love. How we respect ourselves is directly reflective of how we respect one another.
So when you talk to a psychologist, where do children best get self-love from? When you talk to psychologists, where's the best place to receive that from? It ain't the only place you can get it from, but it's clearly the best situation to get it from.
Smitty, right? So again, I say, has anybody else? Because we have a whole host of traumas that we've never been treated for, our community, A host of traumas.
That's the work we do every day on mental dialogue.
I hear you. I understand that. And that's why I'm talking to you today. But what I'm saying is to identify these things in our past and say, hey, look, this is where we are today. And, we need to work on the new generation, because this generation, because they didn't have it, they just never going to get it, So I just think that these roles, I don't think that we're so far gone that we can't deal with this thing, man.
Yeah, and I want to say something really quick.
Go ahead.
I want to say something really quick to Ashley's point, because where I'm sitting here listening to you guys dialogue, Ashley spoke on something that I feel like this is what was being said in a sense of what she was saying on how, like, because, I chimed in and I started talking about the gender roles or whatever. And it was something very important that she was saying was, so the thing is, people have to keep in mind that you can have the aesthetics of the nuclear family, where the man and the woman, they stay together, they have the kids through thickness, through health, they remain together, whatever the case may be. You could have the aesthetics of a nuclear family, and one of those parents can also be an absent parent inside of a nuclear family. So just because it's a nuclear family doesn't mean that it's always a healthy condition. To Ashley's point, when she was talking about,
I cannot believe for as many years as you've been with me that you would go there, because I am always talking about healthy families. I am always talking about healthy families.
Well, I'm saying, like, the reason why I'm going there, the reason why I'm going there is not to make a point to you, because me and you have conversations outside of this platform. So this is to bring to light of, like those different talking points or whatever. It's not to disagree. Like, I'm all for, my background or whatever, but the people who listening, and I know yours, but the people who are listening don't know that. So to a point where, because sometimes because the thing is, you have to be very careful, because people who did not grow up in a nuclear family, they could somewhat hear these conversations and use that as an excuse to not do right, when they still know better, because they've seen other examples. You know what I'm saying? Even though they wasn't raised with both parents or whatever, they've seen examples of a Cosby type of situation. And so somebody that listen to say, if you're listening to it and you're thinking like the only way that we could break these cycles is by a nuclear family, that could give an excuse to the people who didn't grow up like that, where they could be like, oh yeah, I was raised in a single parent household, so that's why I did it type shit.
Well,
so for what I'm saying,
I'm not worried about the people that's going to take that, when we've gotten away from the cornerstone.
But you gotta worry about that, because we have more broken families than not. So that's a part of it that you gotta worry about.
Okay, so you say I gotta worry about it. However, we're fighting against the cornerstone every step of the way. Every step of the way. Here it is. You're right, Wendell. There's a whole bunch of traumas that added to how we got here. But if you go foundationally, it starts in the thing that we're fighting the most. All those things factor in. But right now, as we speak, if you go study the psychology, which I do, and I go look at the outcomes, even right now with all the factors, in general, the children that thrive the most in our community specifically are children like your daughter.
It's because she's supported, man. I mean,
but here, let me finish. But what I'm saying is, it's unequivocally, not even close.
I get it. But now, watch this. She is not immune, okay, to the narratives that are put out there by people who are not us. We don't own TikToks. We don't own Instagrams. We don't own YouTube and all of that.
I'll put up against any child that ain't got what you giving her, though. I'll put up against them every day.
Well,
I know she's not immune. She's not immune. But your foundation damn near makes her immune compared to the kids now that we're saying to them, why are y'all calling Russell Wilson lame. I know
Right.
why them kids calling them lame. I ain't asking them why. I ain't asking them why. I would be tripping if your daughter called him lame. Like I'm passionate.
I ain't arguing against myself now.
But you understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
I'm passionate because we're fighting the foundation. We're fighting it every step of the way. Your daughter isn't immune. She might call him lame one day, but I'll be surprised compared to kids that get to look at TikTok every day because that's how they single mother or father has to let that phone raise them.
That's right.
Because they by themselves. It don't mean every two families get it right. Hell no. But for us to deny and keep fighting that shit every step of the way, that's why we think he's lame. That's why the culture thinks he's lame. We bullshitting and keep talking about all these other situations when I can show you the numbers that no other situation come close. If I show you the abuse that happened in stepfather situation, this is a motherfucker that said, I'm going to take this woman as my wife, raise their child, and they fucking with him. Do biological parents do it too? Yeah, but it's nowhere close to just the step parents. So you want to see the numbers when it's just a live-in motherfucker? Do you want to see the numbers when she ain't got no motherfuckers? That it ain't close. We fighting this shit and not accepting we've lost the cornerstone. If we keep saying we got to return to community, how do you have a strong community without strong families in it? What's the cornerstone of strong families? It's a word we don't like. Marriage is the cornerstone. The house is going to lean without it. It's going to lean without it.
Hey, look, I agree with everything you're saying, brother. I do. What I was trying to say, we need to widen the aperture and understand that we have more trauma than just that.
I absolutely understand it. That's why I'm so passionate, because we're trying to deal with everything but the foundation. We're trying to fix it every other way. Like now we have conversations about, like this is a dumb conversation that comes out of the manosphere, right? The stupid conversation of it's way more women than men, so these women gonna have to accept that a man got to marry several women. Like, this is a stupid, weak-ass conversation that comes out of our current situation, our current dysfunction, our current lack of love for self, that men try to throw that in a woman's face, saying they're going to have to accept this. Isn't it better that a man taking care of several families when they don't even understand polygamy? They don't even understand polyamory. When there are cultures in which it works and it makes sense, but they're doing it from an egotistical bullshit place when you can only come up with that because you ain't been taught in the culture. Because if you go to the cultures that do it, it ain't as many as people think do it. But if you go look at those cultures and why they do it, it's a set way it's still done, and the men and women teach it, and they still ultimately have the cornerstone in place. We trying to make up some bullshit because we ain't got it.
So
I made a reference to self-love and self-respect, right? And when it occurs to me that when you identify the breakdown in the family structure, how can we have a family structure without the self-love and the self-respect?
that's where I wanted to go. So
where you're going is here. So we're living out now we're 2, 3, 4 generations. So when it started breaking down, we are now living out the exponential results, right? So when you say how you do it, well, what we're talking about has been working for humans for 5,000 years. We know on record, we know this. What the foundation has been working for the children. I'm gonna get outside of if me and this woman happy. And again, I'm not talking about fucked up marriages. They exist. But people, I'm not just saying marriage in itself is the fix. That's not what you're hearing me say. But there's nothing that compares to it. So when you ask me how now, we probably gonna have to accept we got to figure out a way to return to the foundation. And I am of the belief in media. That's what I consider my role in mental dialogue is. So just like motherfuckers standing in a Jordan line and we like, dang, why they standing in a Jordan line, right? We upset they standing in the Jordan line. Nike spent $1 billion to get people to stand in that Jordan line. So the messaging has to stop fight against the cornerstone. We got to start getting the message right around. And here it is. As boys, I'll give an off the wall example that's going to prove what I'm saying. So I grew up in a 3-stoplight town, country town or whatever. Football's everything where I'm from. So as a little kid, one thing you're going to end up doing in my neighborhood when they playing tackle the man with the ball, you know what I'm saying? We start out playing a real game, right? By the end of the game, it's just who going to run up the middle and who the toughest. You know what I'm saying? So in my country town, if you want to man up and be respected in the town with the older boys, as a little boy, you got to get over your fear and run to all the big boys, right? Well, when I was in college, we went to the same school together, Wendell. I came across the book Monster by Monster Cody. So I was fascinated with reading about this crazy world that was completely different than my 3-stoplight town. In his 6th grade graduation, he could not wait to get home, jump out a window, and his first sign of manhood was they threw a sawed-off shotgun in his hand and took him on his drive-by. That's his initiation in the Crips. I remember reading that as a junior in college going, that's the same as me being asked to run up the middle. Because I was going to do whatever it took in my country town to be respected in my town. Here's where I'm going with this. So when you understand, when you ask the how, and when you understand that boys are going to chase manhood, completely opposites, right? In South Carolina, that was my version of manhood. Out in LA, that was his version of manhood. And we gonna chase it and we gonna learn it from our adolescent friends if we ain't got no daddy. That's where we gonna learn it from. So when you ask me how everything we're doing right now are good brothers like you, I mentor kids. I talk about this all the time. There's plenty of good brothers who are absolutely extended. I don't know no good brother that's not doing more than just raising their child. They coaching somebody, they mentoring somebody. Some of them going as far as rites of passages. But it's time to be honest about the fact that there's so many boys out here, so many girls out here that the good brother. So when you say how, it's all the band-aids we already have in place. It's the Boys and Girls Club. You're going to need them even if we get more family structures. But to ask, how can we fix it? And we're running from the word that every other culture right now as we speak, half of them are married. That's still the case. And it's been that case for 20 years, 2 censuses backed up by 2 censuses.
You know what, Montoya? Can I ask you this? Yeah. And this is definitely a little bit off the subject, but I really want to ask this question, and maybe you can do a different show about this, because we spend a lot of time on manhood and masculinity and allowing boys to be boys. Have anybody ever thought about that women chase like girls chase womanhood too? We chase womanhood too. So, but we chase it in a different way and we get ridiculed for it. Because naturally, like for us, it's like for our womanhood, it's like we want to, be beautiful, be sensual, be seductive and all that kind of thing or whatever. We might, pamper ourselves a certain type of way or look or dress a certain type of way or do a certain type of thing. And that's us chasing, that's us becoming a woman for us. And when we chase our womanhood, we get backlash for it. But when a boy is chasing his manhood, it's like, oh, he's just a boy. Let the boys be boys. But at what point, like even fathers stop the girl from chasing her womanhood, where it's like, oh, you my baby. You gonna have to be like this and you gonna have to move like this forever. So I think just from there, I didn't want to forget it, but I did want to drop that on you real quick. I think that needs to be another type of situation, like respecting girls who chase their womanhood and respecting womanhood, because womanhood is something that is not respected. And it's something that if women, when women actually try to assert themselves and like, hey, I'm a woman or whatever, it turns into, okay, it translates to men like, oh, you're being masculine, or you're not
Men,
submissive, or you're not this, or you're not that.
men,
So I think that'll be a good conversation too.
men and women are different. We had the conversation when we had the conversation. Went called in and made great points when we did the show. We can still do it again. So I'm not saying no to you, but I just want to remind you of this. And you was on this show too, because I invited you to be the co-host of the age when we were on the Mental Dialogue show, when we did the show on when I said the question was why I won't let my daughter have a boyfriend. Wendell came on with beautiful disagreements that made sense, but it was just obviously used it for marketing purpose. But if you think about it,
well, that's not what I'm saying though. You're talking about what you're talking about. That particular conversation is different than what I'm saying.
Okay.
Why I won't let my daughter have a boyfriend is what I'm talking about girls chasing their womanhood or whatever the case may be. That's still a level of a restriction. You get what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying about that, where it's kind of like girls are more restricted and they're more grounded when they're younger, and they have a clear path and they have more structure for becoming a woman, whereas a man doesn't have that same structure. The society has allowed boys to be able to run wild and do whatever it is that they want to do. Girls don't have that same privilege. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what I was saying as far as that is concerned.
That privilege is what's got us in trouble. That's called a sexual revolution. What you talking about?
Well, that's kind of like that's misogynistic. That's misogynistic, though, Montoya. I'm gonna tell you that.
Definitely led to part of what we talking about.
AJ got a great point, man, and I'm gonna tell you this: I would have loved for someone who have led that conversation, but it wouldn't have been you, and it wouldn't have been me or any other person, any other man, because. As I mentioned, I was raised around nothing but women. But if you ask me what a rites of passage for a woman is, I couldn't tell you. And if I tried to tell you, I'd probably be wrong. And so
and y'all naturally want to protect us, so y'all naturally is gonna the rites of passage. If we told y'all what the rites of passage is, you ain't gonna like that. You ain't gonna want to hear it.
Think about this.
There's plenty of women that do that.
That I don't know it, right? But you already think that, I think that this, the fact that men don't talk about women and their experience is problematic, because we don't understand each other, and we can only look through the colored glasses that our experience creates, right? And so maybe, and you can only leave it up to your own you can really only make your own assumptions based on what you think someone is going through or what someone is experiencing. And I'll tell you, maybe that's the key to all of this, right? Maybe it's not about assuming someone is a gold digger and things like that when they exhibit some of these things, and it's just something that we just flat out don't understand. I'll tell you this. Assertiveness I was never afraid of assertive women. I was never afraid of forward women. I think that there's a strength in it. And I don't make those sweeping accusations, when someone is sexual. Now, hypersexualization, I don't like Black women being painted with that brush, because I don't believe in that. I believe that many other types of women are much more free than Black women have ever been. Okay.
Right.
And so it's just amazing to me that we get painted and stereotyped and typecast into those areas, and you will never be free of that. And other national or other cultures, that doesn't follow them. That stigma doesn't follow them throughout their life. And so, Smitty, and let me just say this, man. I think that this show is about the intersection of men and women in a marriage and a relationship, raising children, right? And I understand your passion and I understand your point. And the only thing that I would say then is, in order to create that foundation that you speak of, we have to start looking internally and valuing ourselves and each other for those things that we should value. Okay.
But it's hard to do that when the way that you learn that historically has been within family structure. So before we can even get to you,
but listen what you're saying. You can't create a family without without mutual respect for someone, right?
I'm not arguing.
Yeah,
I'm
because
saying-
before you create a family, you start off single. Everybody
Right.
starts off single. So you gotta reference. It's like you can't be in this mindset where it's like, oh, the family structure. Like you could come from a family structure, right? I came from like real deal housewives. Like I don't even understand them housewife shows because I'm like, y'all ain't showing me housewife. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand that because that housewife to me is like you at home. You know what I'm saying? You might go out with your girls and have passive income, but the thing is, what I was about to say is the thing is, it's like this: the structure that you come from doesn't change the noise around what you go into. Like you could come from a family structure, but you got to get out here and you got to date. You got to meet somebody. You could be a man. You could be a man, or you could be a woman that want a nuclear family and know the importance of a nuclear family. But before you could get your own nuclear family, if that was your background, you still got to get out here in that dating pool. So we're talking about more so of that dating pool and what the messaging is that's taking place in the actual dating pool in order for you to be able to. So when I'm in a dating pool, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell y'all a little bit of my business, right? I was married for 5 years, right? And prior to me being married, I had my own place. I had my own car. I had me a little piece of call center job or whatever the case may be. I would meet men and I ain't making no hell of a lot of money. I'm busting my ass. I got to work overtime, damn near 12 hours, 16 hours sometimes a day just to make rent, just to be able to do, things to upkeep myself and all that. I'm busting my ass, right? I would meet men and they'll be like, oh, you act like you don't need no man. No, I really do need you to come in here and take care of some of these bills. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really do need you. And the thing is, just from the fact that I had my own shit, and it wasn't too much of nothing, men will be like, oh, you don't need no man, right? Now, after I went through my divorce and whatever the case may be, and I moved back with my people and all that kind of stuff, damn near every man that I run across and I be dealing with, they be so ready to, hey, you know what I'm saying? You could come stay. You know how many men that want to take me in and take care of me and put me under their wings, and I be like, oh, hell no, because it scared me sometimes because I'm like, I ain't never seen no shit like what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Now all of a sudden they feel like I still work the same. I actually make more money than I was making then, but I live with my people, right? Now all of a sudden, because of my situation, the guys will be like, oh, okay, I want to take you in or whatever. And the thing
about that, why are we surprised by that?
No, what I'm saying is you probably not surprised by it, but I'm telling you the way the messaging is and how it works. You know what I'm saying? I was struggling at that particular time in that place by myself, and you know what I'm saying, seeming like I got all this shit together, but I'm struggling like a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? I'm working 16 hours a day, hoping I could find a man that can that could take some of this off my shoulder. But the men look at it like, oh, she don't need a man. Now it's like, at this point, I'm over here, I'm with my people or whatever the case may be. It's like, at this point, it's like, it seemed like a safe zone for them because it's like, I needed you more when you felt like I had my shit together, when you feel like I don't. You get what I'm saying? It's the messaging.
Well, the messaging is how we get to the self-love. I'm gonna close it with this. So what happens is what we're experiencing is a lack of self-love out here. So I wish that our messaging, because it's not that I'm saying you're wrong. Let me try to be very clear here. I'm not saying that what you're wrong. What you're saying is absolutely right. I'm actually trying to psychologically have a step to the messaging that has to happen prior to that, because if what you're saying could work, it would be as nice as us ending it and buttoning this up and saying we need more self-love. But that doesn't happen like that. So what happens is you normally get that in the foundation. So we have to improve the messaging around.
But self-love is not going to make people love you.
No.
That's just
But I'm saying, but that's a starting point. Like, are we gonna fight self-love? We might as well just get off this thing and never talk about this.
So let me just.
You're going too far now. If we're gonna fight that too, then we can't have no conversation. Go ahead, Rick. I'm gonna let you close it. I'm gonna let you close it. Thank you for coming on. I'm gonna let you close.
Roger that, man. All I'm saying is this: when you focus on yourself, you prepare yourself for whatever it is that you think you want. Okay. Absolutely. When you let go of ego, which I think that's a lot of what DeAsia was talking about. When you become or willing to become vulnerable and willing to accept a partner, then you started, you can create a nuclear family because you respect another person enough to be vulnerable to that person. And I think, just me, I think that that's what it requires in order to create a nuclear family.
I agree with that. Nothing I'm saying disagrees with that.
People can't be expectant or suspect of one another and live together. And now
nothing I'm saying disagrees with you, though.
Yourself.
Just make sure that I don't want nothing I'm saying sounds like I'm disagreeing with what you just said.
No, I got you. All I'm saying is like a chicken or the egg, right? It's like, how do you get the nuclear?
Montoya, come over to this side a little bit because you out of the screen.
Oh, my bad.
The other side, there you go.
If you create, how do you create a nuclear family, right? If two people are flawed to the point where they can't get together in the first place.
I don't want to do that. I don't want this. Here it is. So let me make.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So let me be. This is the last comment, and we literally off this thing. So as much as I'm advocating for this, what I'm not advocating for is two dysfunctional people to get together.
Right.
So that's what people are fighting. The assumption is I'm saying any two motherfuckers get together. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is when the messaging becomes right that the marriage is the foundation, you know what the next step is? It requires me to do the work you just said, Wendell, to get it right.
Right.
So forgive me if I'm never clear because the hashtag is healthy marriage before children. That's what I'm advocating for. So if we make marriage important enough again, then I am required to do exactly what you said. Right now, since it's not that foundational, if people figure it's not necessary, we'll get married. Dysfunctional, it don't work, and people go, see, marriage is fucked up.
Yep, but the larger,
we're using the current example to down marriage. But if you're listening to what I'm saying, when it becomes the cornerstone, I have to do it functionally, or else we're not going to take care of these kids, because that's why you're doing it.
Yep, and you know what, Montoya? I know you wanted to end this, and I'm gonna let you end this. I'm gonna just drop this real quick. Y'all pick up what I'm putting down. Russell Wilson is doing exactly what you're saying he's supposed to do, but they're still calling him a simp, and they're still looking at Sierra like she's some type of gold digger. She's she's this, that, and the third or whatever. So we got to get to the larger point of, he's doing exactly what you're saying. He created a nuclear family. He has a wife. He's doing the right thing as a man. She's doing the right thing as a woman. But our society, our people still have a problem with them. So it's a larger issue than just creating a nuclear family because our people still have a problem with it.
It's $1 billion to continue that messaging. We literally fought me for 30 minutes on just the simple message. We literally fight against the message. Nike spends $1 billion because they got to market first before they make their billion back. We ain't marketing the foundation. We fighting it. We can't fight the foundation.
Which is why I said we got to take our narrative back.
I'm 100% with that. That's why I thought that's what we're doing by having these conversations. Thank you.
All right, brother.
That's the close. Appreciate y'all. Hey, for everybody out there, I always close with my upcoming book, Re-Education of the Negro. I am going to go ahead and close with this piece because it fits tonight.
Take me out.
All right, let me take you out. I'll leave you in the back. All right, y'all. I'm gonna close with this. Great comments. Thank y'all for jumping on and making this thing happen. But I'm gonna close with a piece from my upcoming book, The Re-Education of the Negro, and it relates a lot to what we just talked about. This piece is called all my pieces are called Black Socrates Speaks, and this one is called A Teenage Love. I was in the 6th grade the first time I fell in love with the prettiest star in the sky, Vanessa Honey. At the tender age of 12 years old, she was the prettiest sister in our school, and that's all it took for this brother to fall in love. Funny thing is, most men, we never stop prioritizing beauty as a prerequisite for falling in love. But when we're young and immature, that's all we use. Most would disqualify my love for Vanessa as puppy love, because even by my own account, it wasn't based on much. On the night I so-called fell in love with her, she chose to dance with my classmate. This was right after both of us got up the courage to ask her to dance at the same time on the last song of the night. In the long-standing tradition of school dances back in the day, the DJ played a slow song, and whoever a girl chose to slow drag with technically became her boyfriend, even if they were never an item before they danced together. So when Vanessa chose to dance with my classmate and my best friend at the time, I was left out in the cold. For the next 3 years of my life, despite her wading through a myriad of boyfriends, I professed my love for this girl. I became her best friend and sounding board when other guys broke her heart. Now, this was happening at the time we both became interested in sex. And unfortunately, Vanessa gained a reputation for sleeping around with different guys. She did have different boyfriends, but Vanessa's reputation for being loose was just rumor mill stuff started by girls jealous of her beauty. As her lame best friend, I knew otherwise, or so I thought. Vanessa knew I loved her, but we separated that from our friendship. Then one day we kissed, and for me, it was just like Prince sang on the door. The angels started crying up above. Finally, I thought, but what I didn't know is this would be my one and only kiss of Vanessa Honey, as we took entirely different paths entering that summer break. That summer, her mother shipped her off to her older brothers, and I was left heartbroken as the deal's first hit, 2 occasions, became my soundtrack for that summer. When she returned, she took interest in an older guy, and I returned to my position as the lame best friend. Still heartbroken, I turned my attention to other girls, and later that summer, another young lady picked another guy over me. She said I was too nice, so out went the deal, and in came Too Short and Easy E to save my broken heart. So instead of entering a relationship with Vanessa Honey, the girl I love, I started having sex with bitches. This was very hard to write because I've long stopped referring to women by that term, but the honesty makes the point. The actual reason I don't direct that word towards women to this day. Although it was only 2 different girls, I got a reputation for sleeping around, which gave me props as a young boy. Too many for my age, but not exactly pimping or macking like Too Short rapped about. As far as Vanessa Honey, years later, she shared with me she lost her virginity that same summer she broke my heart. Unfortunately, her unfounded reputation of giving it up caused that same older boyfriend to rape her when he found out she was just a tease. 2 very different paths for 2 young teenagers, but ultimately, what lesson could be learned here? My mother talked to me until I was blue in the face about protecting myself when it came to sex, and thankfully I heeded her lessons. However, without the discussion of the emotions that come with sex and love, I entered a cycle many boys never grow up to break. A boy matures when he stops trying to have sex with every beautiful woman he meets. As far as Vanessa Honey, she continued to date abusive men, ultimately marrying her high school sweetheart, who also abused her up until he abandoned her. On a previous run of the Mental Dialogue Talk Show, we once asked the question, when should we talk to our children about real sex? Let's take this a step further and teach them about the powerful emotions associated with sex too early and the lifetime of damage it can cause. Here's a toast to my first true love and any sister still dealing with equally damaged boys yet to mature into men. Just my 3 cents. All I ask is that you think. We gone.